Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the show here today to discuss about Impact Wrestling from April 29, 2021. This was actually a pretty decent, overall, a good show. It really has a nice build going towards their next pay-per-view, Slammiversary. They have a Impact Plus special May 15th called Under Siege, which I will not be reviewing the same night that it happens, unfortunately. I will go ahead and watch that Sunday for you guys. I probably am going to have to go ahead and watch Impact Wrestling the same April 29th, not April. I'm doing the review on that. Let me fix what I'm trying to say here. The episode before Under Siege on May 15th, I'm probably going to be doing that Thursday night, so I will upload that video for you guys. But on May 15th, I will be providing a review on UFC 262, and that has Michael Chandler and Charles Olivier going after the lightweight championship in UFC. So I will definitely go ahead and review that Saturday night on May 15th. But anyway, kickstarting the show, everyone on the roster wants a shot at Kenny Omega for the Impact World title. Scott D'Amore tells all of them to go to the ring and he will address it. Don Callis thanks him for doing so. D'Amore tells Don that Kenny Omega is contracted to be here, so he better show up or he will be suspended and stripped of the title. Callis gets on the phone and immediately is informing Kenny Omega of this, and he has very limited amount of time to show up before he ends up being stripped of the Impact World Championship. In the ring, Scott congrats Kenny, pays respect to Rich Swann, but this was a unique situation and there was no rematch clause instilled into this. Now, I'd imagine that Rich Swann might be able to get added to this six-man pack challenge for Under Siege on May 15th. I would imagine they could do that to add him into the mix if they want to revisit that match, but I think they better keep him off because it'd end up being very predictable. I don't particularly think that would be the smartest thing. That would be like a WWE type of move, and very ununique in my personal opinion. So he states over the next 2 weeks there will be 6 qualifying matches to determine who is in that match, and there's no time like the present to get this underway, and that would be the Jake Something versus Chris Bay. The winner of that match was Chris Bay. He performed very well. I think they made a great decision going with Chris Bay being in the match for this six-pack challenge to determine the number one contender for the World Heavyweight Champion against Kenny Omega. Sami Callihan is wondering if Kenny Omega's plans are going up in smoke. Callis asks what his business is here. Why doesn't he just go ahead and have another hardcore match, is what he states to Sami Callihan. When Kenny gets here, he won't know when or how, but Sami is coming for what's his. So there's a lot of story being built up here, apparently, with Sami Callihan versus Kenny Omega. And I like it. I really do. I think they will go the distance in a very, very good match. I don't think they have to go to a hardcore match to do that, because later on in the night, Sami Callihan faced Eddie Edwards in the main event, and it was a good match. Despite the fact of the ending, which I'll get into. Taylor Wilde feels like the last decade never happened. She's back home and main staging Impact Palooza. Taylor Wilde being out of action for 10 years, she retired and now has out of retirement, and Tenille Dashwood turns up to inquire about them becoming a tag team. Wilde isn't interested though, so she is gunning for Deonna Purrazzo's Knockouts title. Before the next match, Morsley says the industry is filled with bad people. The only difference between him and them is that he's not afraid to admit it. I gotta say, I like Big Cass's character. But his in-ring work he did here with Sam Beal, where he won, I didn't particularly care for. This was not exactly a match with a lot of variety of moves. It was very, very more like hammer fists over the back and stuff like that. Clotheslines, very simplistic moves, big boots. A lot of that performed during the matchup, but nothing really stood out to me, to be quite frank with you. I'm trying to spit out the words, and yet I can't spit them out. But yeah, nothing really stood out to me in this match. Does he look intimidating to me? Absolutely. He looks like an intimidating figure. He's very tall in that ring, and I think him performing inside that small little venue of Impact makes him even look bigger, to be quite frank with you. But to be quite frank with you guys, on the aspect of in-ring work, I don't particularly like it. I don't think it was as good as what he did in Rebellion. I think he was very good in that match, but this one he was off somehow. There was nothing to him. It was just very simplistic moves. Nothing unique, no variety of moves like I just mentioned. It just was not exactly that great, in my personal opinion. Next segment, we have Kimber Lee is looking forward to beating Taylor Wilde. She's interviewed backstage. She's looking forward to beating her with two best friends by her side tonight. Deonna Purrazzo says she thinks her and Susan don't need her there, so she will watch from the back. Lee and Susan go get ready, and Havoc shows up to stare down Deonna, who might as well be her next challenger. Now, granted, I'm not too familiar with Havoc winning streak lately. I don't know if she's been exactly the most well-performed athlete right now with wins and loss records, but personally, I don't think she is in line, in my personal opinion, for a title shot, but they're putting her in this situation. So that's pretty much that situation in that aspect, but I don't really know. Willie Mack is interested in W. Morsley's actions. He doesn't understand why he's got a problem with him, but he doesn't have a problem facing him one-on-one at Under Siege. So that match is going to take place. That should be an interesting matchup. Hopefully Willie Mack can get Big Cass, W. Morsley, in a good matchup here. Sometimes I think Big Cass can perform at a high level at certain aspects, but he's not exactly what you call the greatest wrestler in the world. But if you put him with the right opponent, I think you can get something out of him. Taylor Wilde faced Kimber Lee in a one-on-one match. Taylor Wilde won with an Indian Deathlock, very, very inverted Indian Deathlock, may I add. And then she was attacked by Deonna Purrazzo. Susan, actually. And Tenille Dashwood saves Wilde from Susan beatdown, but she doesn't look happy about it because she keeps trying to enforce the idea of them competing together as a tag team, and she doesn't want nothing to do with her. She wants to go after the world championship in the women's division. So Scott D'Amore gives us an update on Kenny Omega. It's not the first time Impact has had to deal with a difficult World Heavyweight Champion. Moose chimes in by saying he's the only viable challenger to Omega. He's a 5-star athlete. Scott says all he's got to do is go through one guy and he'll qualify for the 6-way. No big deal. He poises the idea that, hey, you keep saying that you're the best. This shouldn't be a big deal for you to go ahead and defeat this guy. So, go ahead and do your thing next week. I forgot who he's supposed to be facing next week. I apologize about that. But bottom line, he's got one opponent to go through, and then he's moving on into the world title picture if he wins the 6-way. I predicted earlier, in March, that I think that Moose should be the guy to take the title off of Kenny Omega. I don't know. I don't know who really should take the title off of him. Matt Cardona, he won his match, actually, later on in the night, against Brian Myers to qualify. He would be possibly a good opponent for Kenny Omega to go one-on-one with. I think with the storyline with his knee not being all up to par, should tell a very good story and bring out probably one of the best matches Matt Cardona could ever ask for in his career. So I definitely could see that taking place. There's a lot of possibilities that could take place. Sami Callihan, Moose, Matt Cardona. I mean, you got 3 great performers that could have a good match with Kenny Omega at Slammiversary, because I'm imagining the number 1 contender will face him at Slammiversary in the main event. So after those comments made by Scott D'Amore, Moose grabs him by the scruff and says that while they have a friendship, he isn't afraid of hurting him or anyone who gets in his way. James Storm walks up. Okay, that's the person he's facing, James Storm. I don't imagine James Storm is winning this match. Walks up and Moose takes his hands off of D'Amore, and he tells Moose there's no need to take it out on him. And he says, here's 2 bags of lunches for you. I know you're a big boy, so nothing like packing you a lunch and get you ready for that ass whooping I'm going to provide you next week. So that was actually rather funny. I think James Storm is a very underutilized performer, but he's not exactly in the best of shape that he used to be in, and it is what it is. The X Division Championship title match with Ace Austin and Josh Alexander was a excellent match, one-on-one. Again, though, I say Josh Alexander is not an X Division wrestler. Very good technician wrestler, but X Division, he is not. He's more of a mat-based wrestler in the sense, and he won this match by an ankle lock. But at the end of the day, he was great in this match. So him being the champion, I'm okay with. Josh Alexander, though, really needs to get a different attire. He looks like a fucking wannabe Rick Steiner. And personally, I'm not a big fan of Rick Steiner. I'm not really a big fan of the Steiner brothers. I mean, they put a lot in the wrestling business as tag team partners, and they did a great job in the tag team division over the years. But I just was never a huge fan of theirs. I like their power wrestling moves and all that, and what they offered as characters, but personally, I wasn't a humongous fan. I didn't think they were the best tag team wrestlers in the world. They were just powerhouse wrestlers. Next segment, we had Johnny Swinger ends up being a little short on money and owes Don Callis $20,000 because he made a bet on a match that he lost to with Don Callis' money. So he goes ahead and he says, "But I got you, Daddy." He calls fucking Don Callis Daddy. Johnny Swinger is a fucking weird character, very oddball person. He acts like he's living in the 80s and early 90s, and yet that's not where we're living nowadays. Callis asks if he's got a car, and if he can do him a favor they will call it quits on the $20,000 that he owes them. Callis needs a stooge who can pick up Omega. Swinger tells Don to page him when they are ready to actually pick him up. So that was that segment. It was nothing special. I don't know what in the hell Don Callis be looking for Johnny Swinger to do him a favor at all, because all he would end up doing is fucking him over and ending up having Kenny Omega be late for a fucking appointment for him to show up to do his celebration, represent Impact Wrestling, so they wouldn't be stripped of the titles. So I don't particularly understand that one. Jordynne Grace and Rachel Erling are actually backstage and are happy to be the new tag team champions in the Knockouts division. Jazz says Rachel has elevated them to a new level, and Flava says Erling is the true star of the team because they have beaten Grace several times. At Under Siege, they are ready to take back their title. So, champions getting a rematch. Whoop-de-fucky-do. Same old, same old. They have no other tag teams. Those tag team titles and the tag team titles in the women's division in WWE need to go die. They need to go ahead and burn those two titles. Another Under Siege qualifier, Brian Myers versus Matt Cardona. Matt Cardona wins this match. It was a very good matchup. It was actually better than their pay-per-view match. And thankfully they had something to fight over for them to have a rematch. Again, like I said, Matt Cardona has a really good story you could tell with Kenny Omega having the storyline injury with his knee. It should be interesting if they go with that idea. I think that would be a great match to put on for Slammiversary, being that this is just a one-off match that they'll have and they'll never face each other again. But just to give Matt Cardona that ability to have a great match in a major pay-per-view in Impact anyway, would do him a lot of good, in my personal opinion. So that's just how I feel about that. We have a segment backstage with Violent by Design with Eric Young. Deaner lost to James Storm, and then Eric Young said, but so did he. So there's no harm in that. It is what it is. And he claims this is war they are fighting in. It's a long way from being over. When the stakes are at their highest, that's when the disease is at its strongest. The disease being, I have no idea, the wrestling business, the people in the wrestling business. I have no fucking clue what they're talking about. So disappointment can insulate rage. Now next week, the War Machine has the opportunity to right this wrong in the Under Siege qualifier. The sickness will not win. Believing can make you do things that aren't impossible. If you don't believe in that, you are dead to yourself. And that is that. Big whoop-de-fucky-do on that bullshit. We have a video package of El Phantasmo from New Japan Wrestling / Bullet Club's group heading to Impact Wrestling next week. That should be a good match. I've seen El Phantasmo's matches on New Japan Wrestling when I had a subscription to them, and he's pretty damn good in the ring. Very good wrestler. I think I saw him compete for the IWGP Junior Heavyweight title at the time. Very good match. Straight up. Then the main event, like I stated, was the qualifier between Sami Callihan and Eddie Edwards. There was a no contest because Kenny Omega and the Good Brothers interfered in the match. The match was good. It was solid. Entertaining stuff. Personally, I don't know why fucking Sami Callihan wasn't announced as the winner by disqualification, because he was attacked first and beaten down. They ended up doing a V-trigger to Sami Callihan with the help of the Good Brothers holding him up. And Kenny Omega delivered a thunderous knee to the face. And they stood tall in the middle of the ring with Don Callis standing there. And he pretty much announces, hey, you wanted the party? The party's here and the party's out. Lights are out. This is done. Party's over. And basically, like, the gloves are off. It's time to get to work. So that was pretty much the basis of this whole entire Impact Wrestling episode. Solid, okay show. It definitely did a great job of telling the story of the aftermath of Rebellion. I think it was very well done. And the best thing about it is it was the first segment on the show. Everybody was interested in getting the title, which shows the title has credibility. And especially being around the waist of Kenny Omega, most definitely. But anyway, that is pretty much the review, guys. That's all I have to say on this subject, so you know what to do. Hit the like button if you like this video. Hit the subscribe button if you're not already subscribed to the channel. And leave a comment down below if you'd like to mention anything or like to state anything that you saw on this episode if you've seen it, and let me know. Anyway, guys, I thank you very much for watching. Have a great night, guys. Bye.